So I have only one job. I have to introduce who I am, that I've already done. You all know about Lawyers Club India. We are a content website. We are an e-learning platform. We've been here for the last decade. And what we are doing today is a collaborative effort with Facts, Team Facts from Mumbai. And what happens here is that we try to marry the some aspects of forensics with aspects of law, and we try to teach the lawyers of today how to do better in the courtrooms by using forensics. It's a very special knowledge. Very few people know uh, how to go about forensics. Most of them are perplexed when somebody comes up with some with a proposition which can only be solved with the an arcane knowledge of forensics. So Riva ma'am has been with LCI for a very long time. She has offered amazing courses on NDPS, on POCSO, Deconstruction of Evidence Act. All those courses आप लोग बहुत सारे लोग join कर चुके हैं, and others can also check that out. Titiksha ma'am was also with us in the NDPS course, and now we are here working on another project which is going to be on question documents. So handwriting reports, जो आज हमारा agenda है, how to find out loopholes, how to use handwriting reports in the court, किस तरीके से यूज हो सकता है, किस तरह से मिसयूज हो सकता है, किस तरह से आप उसको टैकल कर पाएंगे, and other things. This is going to be one course which is going to start very soon. Along with this, there is another course that is on medicine and forensic laws. Medical reports को कैसे देखना है forensics की नजर से, and how to crack it in order to help you yourself and your client in the court. So this is going to be the agenda. This is a very broad view of it. Now, Riva ma'am will take over and she'll tell you about facts, and then also about the courses, and then we'll start.
Thank you so much, Raghav. It's always a pleasure to be back on Lawyers Club India. This platform is an amazing space in which we can bridge the gap. So with that, I'll just quickly introduce our company and hand over to my colleague, Tatiksha. Our company is over 15 years old, and our focus has primarily been exactly like Raghav said, bridging the gap. So over the years, through multiple training programs, we've realized that there is a certain amount of unawareness about forensics or a fear of science and technical reports. And as a result, some very key evidences are not utilized in a courtroom, which could either benefit prosecution or defense. And so our objective with the company, especially in our training services arm, is to bridge this gap. And as you can see, we've tried to cross all law enforcement and judiciary boundaries in terms of who we train. So the idea is to train science students to understand the law, to train law students to understand the science, so that when they go into practice, they can actually utilize their knowledge. And then, of course, we've also gone out into the public domain, into the actual stakeholders, the Bombay Police, Press Club, who are reporting crimes, who are reporting evidences, teaching them how to report correctly, and of course, some specific trainings for Bombay Bar Council and MJ, or the Maharashtra Judicial Academy. We continue to expand our training facilities and our training projects, especially with new technology coming in or a certain amount of reliance now on forensic. Section 45, the expert is being given a little more attention, especially with the new acts. So our focus is constantly to bridge this gap and make the science less intimidating. Before we do get into the actual webinar topic for today, I just thought that I would try to quickly explain the diversity of forensics, and therefore sometimes it misses people's understanding about how specialized we are, and yet we're just a simple applied science. So our specialization is in understanding how to use the science in a courtroom in matters of the law. And the branches that we usually break out into are again based on basic sciences. So you have forensic biology that can look at a gamut of different evidences that are related to blood, body fluids, DNA analysis, immunology, forensic botany, anything related to the biologicals of the human body or the crime scene itself. Forensic chemistry is a little more specialized with respect to the understanding of different substances. This could be somebody with a poisoning case or an NDPS seizure that needs to be analyzed and quantitative, or it could be a bomb blast that needs the contents or the recipe of the bomb needs to be examined, or sometimes even just building materials in poor construction sites involving death. In the physical sciences space, we have the more common ones that are heard of, which is ballistics or firearm analysis, tool mark analysis, hair, fiber, soil, that kind of trace evidence analysis, motor vehicle accident reconstructions, also basic physics principles being applied to understand how the accident took place, what kind of damage we can expect, corroboration, contradiction of statements. And of course, what Titiksha, my colleague, is going to get into a lot more depth in this program, document analysis. And she'll explain why the term question document. So generally speaking, it's usually known as document analysis, but we like to use the word questioned document. Some of the emerging techniques that we're again hopefully continuing to create programs that will build awareness and bridge this gap are in the space of digital forensics, something that is really becoming more and more every day for us from the point of view of cybersecurity, homeland security, any kind of AI operation. These are all involving digital forensics. Of course, forensic psychology, a lot of prominence in the media. Audio, video analysis, this deep fake videos has become a big thing just now in the news. So again, understanding the forensics behind it and how to utilize these reports in a court of law. And of course, forensic accounting and forensic engineering. Over and above this, age-old specializations are the Fingerprint Bureau and of course, forensic medicine. So we have a gamut of programs that we run, and as Raghav mentioned earlier today, we have already run a few of them at LCI, and we're constantly trying to create more programs. This one is a slightly shorter program on how to understand document analysis so that when you're faced with a report, what can you do with that report? And our methodology with LCI has been that we always like to have on the training team a lawyer. Advocate Ashish Chavan cannot be with us today, but he is very actively engaged with forensics, utilizing it in a courtroom, and then understanding the practicalities of a technical report in the courtroom. So he's always with us at our training programs to do that counterbalance constantly and maybe bridge the gap from your side, the lawyer's angle. As Raghav said earlier, we will be also having another program coming up possibly next month after this one completes, which will be focused primarily on demystifying or deconstructing a postmortem report and understanding a little bit more about forensic medicine, specifically in situations where you have sexual assault, rape matters, where the ante-mortem or the medical examination report is so vital in a prosecution or in a defense. So this is just what we have right now. I'm sure we will continue to talk to Raghav and come up with more innovative programs. And we really look forward to seeing some of you back with us when we start. Today is a teaser. It's a webinar, a short one, where Titiksha will share with you some basic ideas about document analysis. And of course, at the end, we'll share with you exactly what we intend to teach over the next few weeks if you should sign up. So thank you so much, and over to Titiksha.
Before before ma'am takes over, guys, once again, you're gonna have a very good time in the webinar, like we always have with facts. But the thing is, please try to reciprocate. Please be proactive. आप questions पूछते रहें. Use the comment box and stay on videos. Let the trainers also have a good time, and that happens only when they can see that you're actually listening and actually learning. अंधेरे में हम बोलते रहेंगे, मजा नहीं आता, और आप भी नहीं देख पाओगे ना, आप सुन पाओगे, आप थोड़ी देर में इधर उधर हो जाएंगे, एंड कुछ नहीं रहता फिर वेबिनार में. So I request everybody, turn on your videos, stay attentive, keep listening, keep learning, and keep asking questions. We'll take all the questions at the end of the session. Please stay on videos. I'll keep poking from behind मैं करता रहूँगा, but stay on videos. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I can see some of the common faces from the last time I took some lectures with LCI. So welcome back, and thanks to Raghav and Fax to asking me back in the LCI programs. So today, like just for people who probably are new to me, I mean, those who don't know who I am. My name is Titiksha Desai. I have about 15 plus years of experience in the field of forensic science. And I have, my specialization is primarily in question documents and fingerprint analysis. I'm a certified document and a fingerprint expert. And I have worked on numerous cases related to, apart from the various other forensic cases, I worked on numerous question document cases, particularly in the civil matters. And some of them I've also handled in the criminal matters as well. But mostly my experience has been in the civil matters. And today what I bring to you is just a promo or a preview of what we will be doing in our sessions, should you choose to join us. And I'll make sure that, I give in whatever experience I have, I make sure that I'll share with all of you. So I hope you will reciprocate the same. Okay. So now let's begin. Like ma'am said, like Riva ma'am said, we usually call it as document analysis because in general, we are actually analyzing the documents. But as a forensic expert, I would like to call it as question documents because we are usually talking about the analysis is on documents that are, fraudulent in nature or whose genuineness or authenticity is in question. Okay. So what are these kind of what are the kind of question documents? I'm sure as lawyers, you've probably come across numerous, documents which have forged signatures. There may be documents that have been altered, for whatever intention, with the intention to make it look authentic or with the intention to destroy a certain fact on the matter. Okay. And we come across these these kind of documents day in day out, especially in civil matters, especially in cases where wills are wills are in play. We've also seen these kind of documents in medical malpractices. Okay. Medical insurance, basically for insurance claims. Okay. Apart from that, even we have come across such documentation in criminal matters like suicide notes, okay, or extortion notes, right? If you see, I have also mentioned Section 65A of the Indian Evidence Act because documents that we talk about or we analyze are not only documents that are on paper. There are also documents that are online, all right, or are electronic in nature. Okay. So as a part of a question document expert, we also look into electronic documents. Okay. And today's time, you see everything is becoming digitized, right? We are constantly, nobody wants to write on paper. We are, even if we are writing, a simple, we are constantly on our mobiles, all right? So WhatsApp messages, emails, we are preparing documents on the computer, okay, and then removing printouts. So today's time, I think question document, the umbrella of question document does not only, is not restricted to just the output or the, the physical paper. Okay, it also includes the electronically prepared data, all right, which we will maybe in the coming sessions we can always talk about in detail, definitely. So what are questions documents? Okay, like I mentioned, there are documents who there are any document whose sources or authenticity is in dispute, and these documents could be anything, all right. There is a variety of ranges on that document, all right. And what do examiner, me as an examiner, what I attempt to do is to confirm whether the creator of the document is the same or not. Okay, we identify whether who has created this document. Okay, we attempt to examine or to determine the time frame within which the document has been prepared. Okay, we identify materials that are used to prepare such documents and uncover any modification or any alteration or any kind of forgery that is done to that document for whatever intention. Okay, so mainly the nature of our examination in question documents usually deals with lot of handwriting and signature analysis. Okay, alteration to documents. We've also come across documents that have been torn, and then we have to reconstruct it to get some lead into what this document, what information this document can provide us. Okay, we also examine writing material such as pen, or what material, what kind of instrument was used to write this particular document. Okay, if it is written by hand. Okay, as well as the surface. So papers, pens, surface like maybe on wall, maybe the text matter is written in on the wall or on paper or on a cloth material, okay, or even on stone sometimes. Okay, so all this comes under the purview of a document examiner. Okay, examination all of the input and the output devices. Like I said, today we have now become digitized. So we are usually working with computers and printers and scanners. Okay, Xerox machines. So these are all electronic devices that we have to examine for any anomalies that we can that in the later stage we can match to the output from those devices. Okay, so examination. So all of this, and I must add that this nature of examination that I just explained is, it is not. It is not limited to just whatever I have mentioned here. It is quite beyond that. Okay, so anything that probably that anything or any matter that has some information, whether it be numbers or markings or figures or letters or shapes, okay, they all fall under the purview of a forensic analysis as a document examiner. Okay. I hope I'm audible. Sorry, I did not ask earlier.
Perfectly audible,
Yes.
ma'am. We're enjoying.
Great.
Very audible, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So for today, we are going to, I wanted to start with, or maybe get you a little excited with what we do as a handwriting examination, handwriting examination. Okay, because most of the times I have seen majority of the civil cases, there are, you know, signature and handwriting related issues. Okay, whether sometimes the wills are forged, sometimes any contracts are forged, and I have dealt with so many of them. And you know, I would love to share my experience probably toward the end of the session. Okay, so we'll start with handwriting examination. Now, as in handwriting, sorry. Okay, as a handwriting expert, okay, um, basically what are handwritings? Any materials, letters, signatures, numbers, anything whose source is in dispute. Okay, again, or we are trying to identify whether this person has actually prepared this particular signature or written this particular document, right? So that is what we do in handwriting examination. And what are the features that we examine? All right, so you can see on the screen I have mentioned some of the features. Now, I'm sure you're probably aware, and you're also noticed that you cannot sign the same way you have probably signed earlier. There will be some differences, right? So for an individual, those differences we term as natural variations. But when somebody is trying to replicate our signature, these are some of the characteristics that you see on screen that we examine thoroughly to identify whether the handwriting material or whether the signature that is prepared on that particular document is in fact signed by the same individual or not. All right, because no two individuals can write in the same manner. Okay, and in fact, even in our own handwritings, we come across variations, but those variations are not to an extreme level. Okay, as opposed to somebody who is replicating our sign. So these factors such as skill level, which basically gives you pictorial effect of how your signature looks. Slant formations of each alphabet or each character in your signature, embellishments, spacing between writing, baseline alignments, pen lifts, height to height ratios, okay, your T crosses, your I dots, loop formation. These are all the characteristics that are very important as a handwriting expert when two pieces of documents, handwritten documents, are given to me for examination. Okay, based on these patterns, we can identify whether the document the authorship of the document is common or not. Okay. Now, once we've identified what these handwriting features are, all right, we then, as experts, as a handwriting expert, we then have to prepare a report. All right. Now you can see over here, the government examiner of question document now is merged with CFSL. All the GQDs are merged with FSLs. Okay. The report admissibility. Here we are talking about the admissibility of our reports. Okay. For a government scientific expert, the admissibility of the report is mentioned under Section 293 of the Indian Evidence Act. And for a private forensic expert or private document expert, the admissibility is mentioned under Section 45 on the Indian Evidence Act. Okay. There is very minor difference between the two kind of reports, except that except for the law part, which is the admissibility of the report as evidences, but the components essentially are the same. Okay, because from this has been the components of a report have been developed, since many years of examination. And components of the expert reports usually include the description of the documents, the plan of action, in the sense what is the examination that you are doing. It will have some disclaimers if required. There will be photographic charts, there will be observations, summaries, and final opinion regarding post the examination that has been conducted. The final opinion will be provided. Now, I have an example of a report, of a handwriting report, which I would like to show with your due permission. This is an example of a handwriting report. For security purposes, I have obliterated all the names and information regarding my clients. Okay. This is a typical handwriting report. This report is actually a report by FSL, expert from an FSL. Okay. So what we see here is that we have to first mention the description of our report, assign it exhibit number.
I think it's not showing.
It's
Not visible, ma'am.
Okay.
The link is not showing. You may have to share screen again. Just switch screens.
Okay. It's visible now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Visible now.
Yes. So this report is basically of government expert. Okay. This is I would call it as a benchmark report, because if you see FSL reports are usually very concise and precise, and there is no extra information provided, which will probably confuse the court, and it will then hamper the overall conclusion of the case. All right. So first, the components that we have here are, you can see the description of the documents, whatever documents that are provided to the forensic expert are mentioned here, and the nature of documents. We also need to mention if the documents are original, or if the documents received by the expert are in soft copy format, or whether they are in the printouts or scanned copies, printouts of scanned copies or Xeroxes or whatever. So all of this information needs to be fed in the report. You then give exhibit numbers. Okay, usually in the CFSL, we prefer original documents, and definitely original documents are provided, but there are times where original documents may not be available, maybe because they are in the court. So we then require hard Xeroxes or maybe scanned copies. We try to work on them. Okay. However, we do have to, like I said, we do have to mention that the opinion that is formed on the basis of analysis of the scanned copies and not the original. Okay. Then you see we have the plan of action, like what is the question that we are asking for. Okay, so in this case, we have to compare question signatures with some standard signature. Okay. Then we conduct the examination process. Then we go ahead with the final examination. So there are two types of examination that we conduct. We would usually do. One is the visual examination, which is the preliminary examination. So you would see, the documents under a magnifying glass, magnify them, and then find out as many features possible to compare them. Okay. And then we go ahead with the final examination. That is the final examination. That is when we take the photographs of the take the photographs of the exhibits, and then actually prepare the report using a computer computer software like Word. Okay, we place all this information in the form of in our reports, and we then prepare an observation chart. Over here, you can see that it is there is not too many words used. Okay, the features that I showed you earlier in our slide, the movement, the alignment, line quality, all of these are mentioned, and then there is a comparison chart that is prepared. Once the comparison chart is prepared, we then move on to explaining why, as an expert, I feel that, or I've come to this conclusion that, let's say, maybe the line quality of a questioned signature marked as Q1 does not match with the admitted signature marked as S1 probably. Okay, so we have to list out all the reasons for the same. And finally, we provide our opinion, saying that the exhibits marked so-and-so, when compared with the exhibits marked so-and-so, show similarities which indicate common authorship. Okay. And every expert have their own lingo or their own, way of forming the opinion, but in essentially it is always the same. So there might be basic differences, but the report essentially is the same. So I personally would like to also include annexures with my report, because I think it makes it much more, it makes it easier for the court to make an hypothesis, if not in judgment. Okay, then there and then itself. All right. So I will also show you the example of the kind of annexures I would attach with my report. So let me just close this and I'll get back to my. Okay, so before I show you the kind of annexures that I would attach with my report, I would like to explain how the process of analysis works really. Okay, in brief. All right. So documents, usually when we receive, we document them. That means we invert them and then assign exhibit numbers. We then take photographs. Okay. If we also scan them and upload them on the computer for a better view. We assign, like I said, exhibit numbers. We then enlarge the photographs, or either print it out or enlarge it on the computer itself, and conduct our scientific analysis. Scientific examination is then and scientific methodologies are applied. We look for any unusual artifacts, as mentioned in my previous slide. Okay. or any commonalities between the features, such as any line qualities, or if there are tremors, or if there are pressure points, or there are indentations below the paper in case of original document. So these are some unusual features that we examine, and then we prepare our report. The report is prepared up to the satisfaction of an expert. Sometimes we prefer, if there is another expert, like another expert who can corroborate with our findings, because sometimes, especially with people who have, with it, amateurs, I would use the word amateurs, they might not fully understand how the complexity of certain features in the signature. Okay, because some signatures can be really difficult to examine. Okay, so in such cases, it is always better to have a peer review. And then all of these enlarged photographs and everything are then attached as exhibits. Like I said, I usually attach my enlarged photographs with my report, so that it is easier for the court to come to some hypothesis, if not any conclusion. Okay. And nowadays, with the 65A, with the IT Act, and we have now also started providing 65B certificates, because we are essentially using electronic devices. Okay, so it is not mandatory for a handwriting expert to provide a 65B certificate for the analysis. But if it is required by the court, then we have to comply. Okay. And yeah. And so, yeah, so like I said, this is the kind of attachment or annexure or a photographic overview, like I would like to call it, that I attach with my report. And these are the kind of markings that I would usually make, so that just it is very clear as to what I'm talking about. Let's say, for example, on number 2, if you see, there is, if you see, the first one is the disputed document, and the other 3 are the standard documents or admitted documents. Okay, the question document you see here, if you see the number 2, there are little changes which I have observed in the curvature. So there is a pointed curvature formation, all right, for the question document, as in comparison with the admitted one, they show a little curved kind of a feature. Okay, so I would like to mark them so that it is understandable when I use some technical terms. Okay, it is easier for the reader to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, we would call number 4, if you see that I have marked over here, number 4 in I think A1, A2, A3. These are known as diacritic marks. Okay, it is not, I don't expect the court or advocates like you all to understand these terminologies, and therefore I make sure that it is better to mark them, all right, for so that you know what we are talking about. Okay, like loop formations here. If you see number 5, the loop formations are little narrower as compared to the exhibits, standard exhibits, and yeah, and so on and so forth, really. Okay. So apart from the number of cases that I've worked on, I have put on one case study, which you can also find on this website. okay, wherein I had given a handwriting report. It was in the Jabalpur court, okay, and it was mentioned in the Jabalpur newspaper article as well. Based on my handwriting report, it was the case was I mean, my handwriting report played a very important part in dismissing the probate petition filed in this matter. So that was a very important, I mean, something really where I felt that my report was able to come to that conclusion. Okay. In this case, I will just give you a little brief. I think this case is about Mr. Parmanand Patel, who had passed away, leaving his one son and two daughters and a wife. And the daughter had put up a case against the son and the wife, wherein the son inherited all the property, and the daughter then filed a suit saying that the will that has been uh, prepared is forged. The signature on the will is forged. Okay, probably okay, and yeah, and so I was able to prove that the signature of Mr. Parmanand Patel was not a genuine signature. Okay, and based on my report, apart from many other evidences that they had collected, the case was dismissed from the High Court. Okay. So yeah. So this is just a preview of what I do as an expert and what we are going to bring to you in this deconstructing forensic document analysis series. Okay. We are also going to talk about in detail about whatever I spoke today about handwriting and signature frauds, not only limited to physical document frauds, also we'll be covering electronic frauds, electronic document frauds. Okay, a little bit of introduction or a little bit of history of how this forensic analysis happens, types of document frauds. Okay, nature of forgeries and different types of forgeries that we come across, instruments and methodologies that we use. Okay, so in-depth detail about what kind of processes or scientific methodologies are used in examining a document, examination of writing instruments, paper, maybe we'll even touch upon lingering issues like ink analysis or paper analysis, which is till date today, it is still a hot topic because there is no there is no sort of adequate research where we can positively conclude that the signature the ink the ink probably comes from a certain pen or a certain maybe a certain maybe 10 years old or whatever. All right, or same goes for documents. Okay, document dating, especially in cases where stamp papers are involved. It is difficult to say whether this is the typewritten material is, or the document is old, or it is a new recently new document, probably forged. Okay, so all these complexities we will touch upon those as well. Again, types of forgeries using computer devices, typewriters, or even printers, or even computers. And we will also be touching upon the printing devices, the output devices. Okay, the anomalies that we observe in the output devices, which can help in identification of a forgery. Okay. And again, report writing, how reports are written, for various nature of examinations, and what are the laws that are related to the admissibility and acceptability of a handwriting expert and their reports in the court, in the courtroom. Okay. We will finally, I would like to end this session with my final slide. The learning outcome, what we are expecting from this course or from this module is that you will get a great understanding about how this analysis happens. Okay, what are the best practices, what are the international standards that we use in conducting these scientific methodologies to come to a conclusion whether a document is forged or not. Okay, you will have an understanding of scientific principles of the evidence types. You will also have a strong foundation in appreciating the kind of evidence we will put across, and therefore have the ability to understand the report when it comes on trial in front of you. So I hope I hope I see most of you all in the coming sessions to follow. With that, thank you very much. If there is any questions, I guess we can now take it ahead. Or if you want more clarity, or if you need me to explain something a little bit in detail, please do let me know.
If I could just add one more on the learning outcomes is that Advocate Ashish will be with us, Advocate Ashish Chavan will be with us at certain time points in this course so that he can constantly share with you how to utilize this report in a courtroom, like whether it is in chief or in cross, how to cross-examine this particular expert, what criteria to use for cross-examination, what kinds of questions can be asked, and of course, like the teacher said, admissibility. So there is a lot of bridging that we will be doing.
Right.
Okay.
So Pratiksha ma'am, are we done?
Yes.
Okay. ठीक है. So like Reba ma'am said, ma'am की थोड़ी सी volume कम थी. I'll explain again that whatever you have seen right now, this is very new. ऐसी knowledge जो which was not in sight, not in our mind. तो अभी we get to see कि ये और चीजें भी हैं. इन तरीकों से हम डॉक्यूमेंट्स को क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं. वी कैन लुक एट द केस फ्रॉम डिफरेंट एंगल्स. और जब पता होगा तभी तो हम उसे यूज करेंगे. जब पता ही नहीं होगा तो यूज कैसे करेंगे, राइट? सो प्लीज स्टेप फॉरवर्ड, ट्राई टू एक्सप्लोर दिस एवेन्यू. A lot of people have joined us and everybody has always been satisfied by the way facts has dealt with the cases with the courses. First, we get to consume a lot on forensics, a lot of new ways to look at things. And then we have Mr. Ashish Chavan, who's been a special public prosecutor in Maharashtra with amazing experience in criminal trials and every other kind of trial, because he has his private practice also. He's been amicus curiae in many cases to the court. And he explains कि कैसे ये forensics, कैसे ये science, कैसे ये technicalities को आप एविडेंस एक्ट में 114, 115, 134, 37, 38 इन सारी चीजों के साथ मिक्सअप करके, टीम अप करके यूज करेंगे. एंड वी एक्चुअली ऑल्सो डू मॉक सेशंस like in the previous course that we did it on POCSO, ma'am. POCSO, yes. तो POCSO के केस में we did the whole forensics. We talked about swabs, Siemens, कैसे उनको एग्जामिन किया जाता है, क्या क्या चीजें निकल के आ सकती हैं, क्या क्या चीजों को हमें ध्यान में रखना चाहिए जो लॉयर्स को पता भी नहीं था. लाइक एटलीस्ट 20-25 थिंग्स, 25 points of tangents that you can look at the case from. And then we try to सी की हाउ टू यूज देम. और फिर हमने एक मॉक सेशन भी किया लास्ट में, फुल फ्लेजेड मॉक सेशन इन विच आई वाज द prosecutor, infamous prosecutor, and then there was defense and ma'am was the forensics expert. And then we showed कैसे क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशंस होती हैं और क्या बेहतर क्वेश्चंस हैं क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन करने के लिए. तो अभी जो आपने स्लाइड देखी थी, जैसी तितिक्षा मैम ने दिखाई थी, जिसमें आपने देखा कि बहुत सारी तरह की चीजें हैं जिसपे द वे यू कैन लुक एट डॉक्यूमेंट्स, आपकी इंक वगैरह एंड सिग्नेचर्स एंड प्रेशर पॉइंट्स एंड ट्रेमर्स एंड अदर काइंड, जो जो चीजें मैम ने बताई कि इन तरीकों से हम एग्जामिन करते हैं, तो वो हमें पता होंगी तो हम अगले अगले को चेक कर पाएंगे, ऑब्जेक्ट कर पाएंगे, एंड वी कैन, हम तह तक जा पाएंगे केस की. सो अमेजिंग सेट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन दैट यू गोना गेट. नाउ if anybody has any questions, we can take questions in the next 5 to 10 minutes. कोर्स के बारे में जो क्वेश्चंस हैं वो हम लास्ट में लेंगे. अभी इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस रिगार्डिंग द लेक्चर दैट मैम हैज डिलीवर्ड, so we'll take those first. Anybody who has a question, please raise your hand and then use your mic. Do not intervene when any participant is speaking or especially when the trainer is speaking.
I think किसी ने चैट पे डाला है what are the admitted signatures. So I would like to clarify because I use these terms, so वो naturally आते जाते हैं without understanding कि शायद आपको technologies हैं जो यूज करते हैं. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल क्वेश्चन डॉक्यूमेंट is the entire document itself that is forged or that is fraudulent in nature. And then we have exhibits that are questioned exhibits. So question exhibits, especially if you talk about signature analysis or handwriting analysis, are is the document or is the written material which is in question. So for example, अगर एक will है जिस पर एक signature है, किसी ने contest किया है उस signature को, so that signature will become the questioned exhibit or a disputed exhibit. Okay. उसके बाद, because this is a comparison examination, we have to have a number of standard samples. Standard samples दो प्रकार के होते हैं, two types. One is the requested samples. Requested samples are basically, these are also known as specimen samples. These are samples that are signature samples, which are taken in front of an expert, or maybe in front of the court, or maybe in front of अगर FIR अगर file करनी है तो maybe in front of a police officer. So कोई भी एक authoritative person को witness रखकर जो signature samples दिए जाते हैं उनको specimen samples बोलते हैं. Then we have, in standard samples, we have the second type of samples. These are known as the non-requested samples, which are also called as admitted samples or admitted signatures or natural signatures. These are signatures or these are documents that we procure from the individual who is contesting contesting a certain document, saying that this signature does not belong to him. Okay. So these are natural signatures wherein he provides documents which he admits that these are his signatures. For example, passport, for example, PAN card, for example, any document that he has signed, maybe a interview letter or maybe a signature on a signature on any official letter, okay, which he admits that belongs to him. These are known as natural samples or admitted samples. Okay. I hope this was clear. Okay.
Pretty clear, ma'am. And to add on to that, वकीलों को मतलब धाराएं समझ आती हैं, तो जो आप 291A 91 को यूज करके 311A यूज करके जो आप डॉक्यूमेंट्स कोर्ट के द्वारा मंगवाते हैं कि सर ये इनका सैंपल राइटिंग मंगवाई जाए, स्पेसिमेन सिग्नेचर्स मंगवाए जाए, एंड देन वी विल कॉल एन एक्सपर्ट अंडर 47 ऑफ द एविडेंस एक्ट, एंड देन दैट एक्सपर्ट अंडर 67 or 73 as the case may be will कंपेयर द टू डॉक्यूमेंट्स. एक एडमिटेड डॉक्यूमेंट होगी कि जी सर ये मेरा डॉक्यूमेंट है, मैंने इस डॉक्यूमेंट पे बैंक के लिए साइन किया था, बिजली के बिल के लिए साइन किया था, घर खरीदने के लिए साइन किया था, तो आप मानते हैं कि हाँ ये मेरा साइन है. और जो दूसरा सिग्नेचर आता है जिसको क्वेश्चन किया गया है उसको एक साथ रखती हैं तितीक्षा मैम या रीवा मैम, एंड देन दे टेल द कोर्ट कि सर इन दोनों में ये डिफरेंस है या फिर ये सिमिलैरिटीज है, जिसके बाद हमें पता चलता है जज का ओपिनियन क्या होगा. सो दोज आर दी एडमिटेड सिग्नेचर्स, राइट?
Yes.
Okay. And any other question? Anybody can raise the hand if you have questions.
I would just like to point out एक छोटी सी गलती है. I think it is 293 CRPC Act, not Indian Evidence. So खाली I think in my first slide I have mentioned in my 6th slide I have mentioned section 293 of the Indian Evidence Act. It is CRPC, not
CRPC.
Indian Evidence.
Right. ठीक है. चलिए, so एक क्वेश्चन मैम मेरे को पर्सनल चैट पे आया था, which was how many times do we see that an expert is able to change the opinion of the court, because what we see in the judgments is that the opinion of the expert holds lesser value as compared to the value that a direct evidence holds. So how many times, how frequently do you see that you are able to influence the the wind in the courtroom?
So definitely, direct evidence is always better. It has an upper edge, for acceptability. But not to say that, handwriting expert, opinion of an handwriting expert cannot move the court. There have been in certain cases, like for example, my own case, not much other kind of evidences they could rely on. Okay. And because of that, apart from various other, I think they must have definitely explored many other different different routes of coming to the conclusion of to dismiss the probate in the court. Okay. And my report played an instrumental part in that. So it gave an indication that there is something wrong. So let's explore. It can at least move tables. Shake something, shake at least a chair.
Okay.
So obviously this is not a conclusive evidence because it is an opinion. We always use the term opinion. Okay, it is an expert's opinion that I'm giving, because another expert might have a different opinion. But again, there are a lot of lot that goes into it: your experience, your knowledge, your number of cases you have done, variety of cases you have done. All of that also matters. Okay, so therefore, the court still recognizes handwriting examination or question document examination as a corroborative evidence. Not maybe a foolproof evidence, but corroborative evidence. But definitely there have been instances where it has at least been able to initiate some sort of movement with respect to the direction of that case.
Right. And lawyers know that वो थोड़ा सा shake and थोड़ा सा like ma'am said, moves tables. That is all that defense lawyers need to create a doubt in the case. And if you can use anything to do that, it is helpful, and you should be investing yourself in that. And एक और question मैम मेरे दिमाग में आता है that how many times, which is more important, how many times do you think you've seen the other side, the lawyers on the other side, being able to counter the opinion of the expert, or to effectively and efficiently cross-examine the expert to crack the expert? कितने लोग ऐसे मिलते हैं जिनको ये knowledge है?
So unfortunately, I've met none. I'm being very frank. But again, ऐसा नहीं है. It is just that there is a lack of information. Okay. There's lack of information about this subject. बहुत सारे एडवोकेट्स हैं जिनसे मैं इंटरेक्ट करती हूँ, तो दे आर fearful of using a scientific expert's report in the court for their, just because सामने वाला शायद maybe they will come up with some loopholes in the report, and you probably and we probably may not be able to catch up. Okay, so होता है, मतलब there are advocates who refrain from using this evidence, but I would say that it is only helpful to the expert, I mean to the advocate. It is only helpful to the case in hand. Okay, जितना आप एक whenever I've stood in the court for cross examinations, I've been asked ridiculous questions like, how big is your office? How big is, where do you work from? Okay, what instruments you have? And and can you explain what is this? Can you explain? It felt more like a, viva than actual cross examination. Okay, so मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि शायद ये कोर्स का एक रीजन यही है कि एज मेनी एडवोकेट्स जिनको पता चले कि इट इज नथिंग टू गेट स्केर्ड ऑफ, ये ओनली आपको हेल्प करेगा, एज इन योर केसेस वी आर ट्राइंग टू मेक advocates understand how to effectively analyze that report, the scientific report. Okay. So yeah, so
To add a little bit to this, Jessica, you can ask somebody, for example, in a cross-examination, if you have done a course like this, you would understand कि inter-sample variation तो होता ही है. मतलब if you were to sign your own signature right now 10 times, there will be variation. So has that expert picked up those variations? फिर आप cross में पूछ सकते हो. In those 10 signatures, if you were to sign 10 times, would they always be consistent? So then the expert has to explain why they are finding the inconsistency and how valid it is. Forensics में हम कहते हैं कि probabilities is very critical to understand. And if a lawyer can use that concept of probability, that becomes that little bit of doubt you can create, which is what the objective is. So to understand little bit of knowledge and use that knowledge in an informed way during cross.
and
Right.
also in recently I was in fact एक law firm है, बहुत बड़ी law firm है, they in fact took me on board as a consultant for their cross examination of another forensic expert. तो ये भी एक option है आपके पास, that we are there to support you. Okay, अगर आपको कभी ऐसा लगे, because it was a good experience for me also to understand how, the law system works, when you are sitting on the other side and what kind of questions. So I was asked to build up a questionnaire of, how to cross a scientific expert, which only I as a scientific expert would know. Okay. Because, and they also had taken me on so that अगर एक scientific expert सामने से कोई reply दे रहा है, तो I am there to justify or I am there to corroborate whether it is a fact or not. So scientific experts like us, like Riva ma'am or like me or anybody in any forensic domain, we can actually be a helpful tool if there ever is a requirement for crossing an expert. So you can always take help, consult us.
Right, ma'am. So that is all that I wanted to surface. Guys, you have a great opportunity to learn. This was not even the tip of the iceberg. What we are going into and what we are going to learn is going to be huge learning for all of you, and is going to help you in multiple ways and multiple instances, and you're going to be thankful, like you are already, right? So if there's anything anybody wants to add, we'll stop for like 5 seconds. And otherwise we'll wrap it up. And आपके पास link है chat में. This is the e-learning page on LCI. We have courses from the new criminal laws, the civil laws, the constitutional laws, PILs, other civil laws, specific relief, cyber laws, forensics, NDPS, POCSO, DV Act, Marriage Act, हर तरह के courses हैं, and all of them from trainers as good as those that you see on your screen. All those who are practicing, we have all courses like that. So do check that out. This course is going to be out very soon. Please see that you're aligned with all the channels that we have, social media pe, Instagram pe, LinkedIn pe, WhatsApp pe, everywhere you want to see notifications, and join this course. Try to share it with others also, so that more and more lawyers join, because you have to get this knowledge in order to use it. वो ढाई आखर प्रेम का तो चलता नहीं है कोर्ट में, right? So we have to have uh, we have to keep ourselves equipped with the weapons that we can use in the courtroom. So any course on signature verification, I think that's gonna be a part of the course. आगे चलते हुए हमारे ये courses में आएगा कामना जी, and we learn that also. So do join. जिन लोगों ने इस वेबिनार में ज्वाइन किया उनको तो मैं पर्सनली कॉल करके पूछूंगा if you're joining or not. बाकी प्लीज डू शेयर द वर्ड विद एवरीबडी, एंड वी आर गोना स्टार्ट सून. आप लोगों को नोटिफिकेशन मिल जाएगी, राइट? Thank you so much, Riva ma'am. Thank you, Titiksha ma'am, for joining us, for your time.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, everybody.
we'll meet again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.